Jeff and I met, well, back in high school actually we met, and I remember having some great fishing trips. That's where I remember him most. And then we reconnected through his business called ComputerWorks and applecapital.net. And they had called into my agency at the time, which was called Sagaza Creative Group. And we basically started working on rebranding the business, and out of that process, Firefly was born, which is still up and operational. From there, I had this idea about developing a software of sorts for the industry that we were working in, which at the time was primarily dentistry. I thought, who better to talk to than Jeff, because he had a great technical background. Lo and behold, we ended up putting a merger together between my company and Firefly.
Out of that conversation, we said, hey, Firefly can bring the tech, Sagaza can bring the marketing expertise, and we said, hey, let's build this thing. So about 2007, we had already spun up Legwork. 2009, the economy fell apart.
Just an awful scenario of two great companies doing well, coming together, and then having just meltdown.
Back in that day, there was nothing about our business practices that had anything to do with the kingdom. It was all your typical American dream of, let's build a cool company with a national brand that will pay us lots of money so we can sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais. I mean, we were loving money, and I don't even think we even saw it at the time. We didn't realize what a death grip we had developed to the money that was coming out of the company. And that was ultimately really poisonous to the culture inside our company.
The environment was toxic, constantly in a state of argument. It felt like we were constantly chasing our tails. We didn't really have any real sense of order or control.
Honestly, I don't think I would have wanted to work there if I was an employee. It was just kind of a cesspool of emotions, and Corey and I and the other owners would regularly get into it, all the way up to what we call fight night, which Corey and I just about went to blows that night. Unbelievable behavior, but that's what happens when you're stressed out and putting your priorities and your hopes in the wrong areas. I was in a bad place in my marriage and then got saved. Right after that, my wife got saved, Becky. Started attending GCC. We got put into a gospel community, and we started living this life in community, which life in community is all about being on mission. All of life is mission, no separation between, parts of your life. Everything is gospel centered. And that message started to penetrate our life to a point where I started seeing this discrepancy between my home life and my spiritual life, my church life, and then work.
And then there was this glorious day that I'll never forget.
Talked with Corey, and it was like, hey, what if we commit Legwork to do God's work instead of serving our wallets and serving our selfish desires? Like, what if we turned over Legwork to God?
What if we just take this business and throw it at God's feet and say, it's yours. You're the CEO.
No resistance. I mean, Corey was all in. He was like, let's do it. I mean, we had nothing to lose. We had nothing to lose because, we were at rock bottom. We had like $2,000 in the bank account. And we just said, all right, Lord, this business is yours.
No more thinking about ourselves. No more thinking about how we're going to pad our own pocketbooks. But how are we going to use this business for the greater kingdom? How are we going to do something for not just ourselves, but something greater than ourselves? And from that day forward, things started to click.
The change in the culture of our company was literally, I feel like we walked out of the office and it literally, from the moment we prayed about it, it felt different. All of a sudden, all of life was for the kingdom. All of a sudden, everything was for Jesus. And we started committing resources to the kingdom. We started saying, hey, here's office space. Hey, why don't you use our printer? Hey, you need a website? This church needs a website. Let's build them a website. The first 12 to 14 months that we made that commitment, I think we did about almost $70,000 in cash and services.
One of the things that Jeff and I have figured out that's been really fun is that together, through the company, we can give 10 times as much as we could on our own. Look at your resources, your God-given talents. Find things that you have accessible to you. The joy that you'll find out of giving and watching what God does with it is beyond words. Some people might think, well, the goal's changed. And really, it hasn't. In fact, it's stayed exactly the same. We still want to be a $300 million software company that's recognized nationwide. The difference that has changed is the purpose. Why we want to make the money and what we want to do with the money that we make.
We have to date been giving 10% of our profits. So if we make X amount, we give away 10% of that on top of any services that we can give away during the month or any projects that we do for a ministry or for someone in need. It has become a way of business for us, down to where now our giving isn't even so much based on profits as it is working it into as an actual line, an expense line that we just give every month, regardless of profitability.
The selfish side is that when you're sitting in front of someone who's been told to come talk to us about getting help for a website, having no idea that we're about to give them the project for free, and looking at their eyes after we've said, this is just what we do around here, that's an extremely rewarding feeling. As God started working in our lives at work, I realized that I started to take that home with me. I started leading my family a little bit better. And GCC has really helped to give us a home, give us a place to start living out our faith. And now I feel more complete. I feel like my family, my business, my entire existence is living an existence that's for the kingdom and not for myself.
In my own spiritual life, I think one of the most tangible apologetics that I've seen in my walk, and I know my wife would attest to this and Corey would attest to this, that the one area that the Lord says, test me, is in the area of giving and giving out of your first fruits. I can't think of anything that is more first fruits than the resources that come out of your company. As we give out, the Lord gives a whole bunch to us to continue to give out. We just have a learned faith over years of the Lord taking care of us. I mean, story after story after story of God being super faithful during times when we did not have it. We have seen that we have not been able to outgive the Lord.
I'll take any skeptic and say with absolute confidence that if you look at the numbers don't lie. The numbers in our business give you proof that God's hand was in this, because there's no way that any human could literally turn on a switch and change a business overnight after prayer at a moment's notice when we knew we needed Him and we asked for help.
Don't miss out on the joy of giving. You're missing out on one of the best parts of being a follower of Jesus if you don't experience the fun of giving away what Jesus has given you.